I've talked about Lance Wallnau a few times before, but I want to talk about him again because he just said the strangest shit recently. So I wanted to take a look at his latest clip, but before we do, let's take a look at this one from mid-October 2020. This is right before the election took place. Let's see where he stood on the subject of the election.
I believe Donald Trump has unfinished business in the nations. And I believe you will not let someone who has stood with Israel and stood with Christians, you will not let them be ingloriously beaten and embarrassed by your enemies.
Yeah, so he was one of those people. He was one of those Trumpist extremist pastors, if you will. Lance Wallnau is actually what one would call a dominionist, a Seven Mountains dominionist, as a matter of fact. I don't know if you've heard that term, but the idea behind Seven Mountains dominionism is they want to control public life in 7 different ways, and they believe if they can gain control over these 7 different aspects of life in this society, they will control the society. It's kind of like a Christian ideology, if you will. That's probably the closest word that describes what Seven Mountains Mandate is. Let me give you the definition of dominionism real quick. It's basically these 3 different things, okay? Dominionists celebrate Christian nationalism and that they believe that the U.S. once was and should once again be a Christian nation. In this way, they deny the Enlightenment roots of American democracy. That's number 1, okay? Number 2 criteria to be a dominionist. Dominionists promote religious supremacy insofar as they generally don't respect the equality of other religions or even other versions of Christianity. That right there should be reason enough for Christians to reject Christian nationalism in the U.S. because dominionists currently are the closest that Christianity has gotten to controlling the government. Dominionists are at the top of the government right now. Like, for example, Lance Wallnau, extremely influential Christian politically. Extremely influential. He knows Donald Trump and people surrounding Donald Trump. He has a lot of influence as a dominionist. Okay, so that was number 2. Let's take a look at number 3 criteria to be a dominionist. Dominionists endorse theocratic visions insofar as they believe that the 10 Commandments, or biblical law, should be the foundation of American law, and that the U.S. Constitution should be seen as a vehicle for implementing biblical principles. That is what a dominionist is. Now, there's another level of dominionism called the Seven Mountains Mandate. And the belief with the Seven Mountains Mandate is that they want to get their people at the top of these 7 subsections of society. They want to get dominionists at the top of religion. If they can get dominionists in every pew, in every pastor's job in the country, that's their goal. Or at least at the top of the heap, so that the most famous ones, televangelists, for example, are dominionists. And as a matter of fact, they've largely succeeded in that respect. Education, family, business, government/military, arts/entertainment, and media. They want dominionist people. They want extremist Christians, their brand of extremists, at the top of each of these things. If they can get them to the top of the government, get them to the top of the military, get them to the top of all of the schools in America, the top of the arts and entertainment industry, get them to the top of the news networks, have the most control over businesses, all of this other stuff. If they can control these 7 areas of society, then they believe they can control society. They don't need to convert everybody. They just need to get their people to the top of these 7 sections of society, and then they can control everything from there. That's the idea behind Seven Mountains dominionism, okay? Seven Mountains Mandate. And that is what Lance Wallnau is. He is famous for being the face of Seven Mountains dominionism. So let's continue listening to this clip. Like I said, October 2020, right before the election when this came out.
Because your name is part of this, Lord. What will the heathens say? What will the radicals say? What will the communists say when someone who stands with you so conspicuously does not have a friend in high places watching over them? But I believe you are going to watch over this president.
Wow, this dude had some iron balls to come out there and say something like that. This is effectively a prophecy that he was making here. This is effectively a prophecy that God was going to put Donald Trump in office in 2020, right? If he didn't feel 100% sure that Trump was going to be put back in as president, all the things that he's saying right now would come back to bite him in the ass, and he wouldn't have said them. This is pretty on the nose right here, some of the shit he's saying. Can you believe this dude came out and said some of this shit, and then Trump lost? Oh my God. Check this one out. This clip's from early June 2021. Just to put on record exactly who he is. I want to give you guys a good idea.
People say, oh, Lance, I don't know, you sound like a Christian nationalist. Yes, I am a Christian nationalist.
I don't know if you guys are familiar with Christian nationalism or the Christian nationalist movement specifically within the United States, but the idea is they want to control the United States in every way. If you aren't a Christian, you don't belong in the United States. The more moderate end of this extremist ideology is you deport people if they won't convert to your brand of Christianity. I don't mean vanilla Christianity, I mean their brand of it, their extremist brand. If you don't convert, then you get deported. That's the vanilla version of Christian nationalism. The extreme side of this already extreme ideology is you get rid of them by any means necessary. I don't know where Lance Wallnau falls on that, but I do know that he is determined to control the United States at any cost. Let's keep listening.
And I will take the flag that God gave us with its blessed freedom and blessed government and blessed nation, and I will take that flag and lead them to the cross. Give me the flag, and I'll carry it all the way to Calvary. And I'll plant it there where the cross is and say, there's the one that gave you the nation. There's the only one that can save this nation. We've got to give our lives to Jesus.
Okay, you thought that was weird, though. Check this one out. Early January 2022. This one just came out. This guy is literally praying over a cardboard cutout of Donald Trump. In January 2022, a year after the dude left office.
I pray for this man. Lord, I pray you take the smell of smoke, the disappointment, the bitterness, the anger, the feeling of betrayal and loss. That it must be a terrible thing, Lord, to actually feel as though you've been stolen an election and that the nation that you love is suffering with it. But I'm asking you, Lord, it's fine. I just found a flag here. I didn't know.
Are you fucking kidding me? You're looking around at your stuff while you're saying a prayer. What is wrong with you? Get back to God. He's waiting.
I had this. I'll bring that out. I pray, Lord, that you'll take the smoke away, but you'll give him a revelation that he is nothing but an instrument of yours, and that as an instrument, you have your hand on him, so that, Lord, he won't be moving in anger or bitterness or rage, but you'll take that away from him and show him that he's but an instrument and that he's being used by the hand of providence.
This is so fucking cringy. Why does he even have a cardboard cutout of Donald Trump? Really? Why does he have this in his little fucking study or whatever it is here?
I pray that you would indeed use him as a hand of providence.
Oh, dude, this guy's house is like a wreck. Look at this shit. He's got clothes all over his chair and his desk is a mess. What is going on in this dude's house?
Use him as a hand of providence comes upon him, and take from him the angst and the bitterness. And I'm praying now also, I'm seeing something great happen with the fellow whose show is right before mine on Saturday, Steve Bannon. I see God doing a work in him. I want you guys to pray for Brother Steve. He's been doing this Christmas music and talking about our Lord Jesus Christ and talking about the Great Awakening and the Fourth Turning.
Great Awakening, of course, is kind of a QAnon dog whistle. Sure, you guys have probably heard that before, but the Great Awakening is this whole thing QAnon believes gonna happen to America, and then the storm will happen, blah, blah, blah. Actually, I think the QAnon book may have been named The Great Awakening. I forget what it was named now, but anyways, yeah, that's a QAnon dog whistle.
He was probably called to be an apostle. I mean, everything that he does, he's a command center, but he's got an apostolic grace on him.
Steve Bannon? Are we talking about the same fucking guy? I didn't even know that Steve Bannon was religious. I just know that he's a little bit of a weasel. He was fired by Donald Trump and absolutely hated by him for like a really, really long time. Trump felt like he was betrayed by Bannon and all kinds of other stuff. It was a big dramatic thing. So needless to say, Lance Wallnau is way out there. All right, here's the thing, okay? I don't like assuming intent about people. I don't like assuming that they're scam artists or that they know what they're doing it intentionally to take advantage of people or any of that stuff. I don't usually do that because we don't know what's in their heads. We have to take them at face value. But there are a couple of people, that I believe know exactly what they're doing, and they're doing it intentionally to take advantage. One of those people is Ben Shapiro. The dude got an absurdly high result on his LSAT test, if he's to be believed. He went to law school, I think Harvard Law School. He's not an idiot. He knows these arguments. He knows the arguments that he's making are fallacious. He knows that. He trained in that for 3 years at least. You can't tell me he doesn't know what he's doing. He knows that he's lying to people and deceiving them and using propaganda. He knows that. You cannot convince me otherwise. But I don't like saying that about many people. I just so happen to think that Lance Wallnau is one of those people too. I think he's one of the people that knows what he's doing, and he's doing it intentionally, just like Ben Shapiro. That's the impression I get, but who the fuck am I? I'm not in his head. I don't know anything for sure. So, what is Lance Wallnau up to now, out of curiosity? He's got this TV show. As he mentioned, he's on TV right after Steve Bannon, I think. This is Real America's Voice, apparently. I wanted to give this a listen. This is him on his show. He's talking about January 6th, if you were wondering. This came out late September 2021, so check it out.
There was no weapons in the crowd.
There were no weapons in the crowd? That's simply untrue. But I digress. I'll let him get it out. Let's keep listening.
The pipe bombs they found conveniently located at the you never notice that there's no story on that?
Oh, are you implying that the pipe bombs were planted by somebody else? Are you implying that they lied, that there weren't any or something like that? Like, what are you implying? You're implying that there's some conspiracy theory one level up now, that the people who discovered them were lying about it, or the people who reported on it are lying about it, or something like that. There's no reason to believe that. This is Occam's Razor 101. Like, stop building assumption upon assumption upon assumption.
Washington has an ubiquitous, it's like an octopus of 1,000 cameras. And whenever they give you something they want you to see on January 6th, it's always some grainy thing like someone's, camera taking a picture of Bigfoot in the forest. You can't figure out what you're even looking at.
Do you know why that is, actually? Why there's kind of poor quality on some of these cameras? I can tell you why. Because it's extremely expensive to buy high-quality cameras, and it's expensive to run high-quality cameras 24/7. In addition to that, it's expensive to store the data for those high-quality cameras. The higher quality it is, the bigger the data center you need to store those high-quality videos. So they buy cameras that they think will do the job, that they should be able to make something out from it, and they install them. And that's exactly what happened. They actually did, as a matter of fact, find a picture of the person who laid the pipe bomb. This is a picture of the pipe bomb suspect. They've been looking for them for a long time, but finding somebody who's masked up and everything like that is difficult. They intentionally wore masks because they knew what they were doing. They knew what they were doing was wrong, and they didn't want to get caught. But there was a manhunt. They released the photos that they have here specifically so that if somebody knows something, then they can report it. And it's not just a picture either. It's a video. And there are a few more angles that you can capture and things like that. They're still investigating. So if you were wondering what Lance Wallnau was talking about, that's what he's talking about. It's not actually that grainy. They just took precautions to prevent themselves from being caught, like wearing a mask.
Can't figure out what you're even looking at. They've got the information on the pipe bomb because I think the pipe bombs were planted there by the people that wanted an optics for an incident in the Capitol.
Okay, we didn't need optics for an incident at the Capitol. Trump supporters went in and tried to do a full-blown insurrection. We didn't need to make things worse. The media didn't need to fabricate any of this stuff. And claiming that the media fabricated this stuff is like another layer on top of the conspiracy theory. He's basically trying to do damage control for the Republican Party, for the Trumpist movement, being the Trump supporter that he is. I mean, we just watched a dude pray over a cardboard cutout of Trump. Of course he's going to do all of the oppositional damage control that he possibly can.
And optics for an incident in the Capitol. This is why a program like this is important. Because in the rush of information, we get desensitized to going back and exposing the forensic crime scene data that shows, oh my gosh, maybe the FBI and maybe the Democratic Party and maybe political operatives in D.C. were working together to create a narrative that would shut down the certification resistance movement in its tracks.
Okay, so how did the pipe thing do? Did it shut down the certification narrative thing in its tracks? Of course not. Nothing he's saying even makes any sense within his universe. Like, within the narrative that he's trying to build here, it doesn't even make any sense. Like, what is he even talking about? He's simply doing damage control for Donald Trump and the Trumpist movement. Nothing more, nothing less. That's what we're up against, basically. Somebody who prays over cardboard cutouts of Donald Trump, who does damage control for the Trumpist movement, for a literal insurrectionist coup. Damage control for them. Outright claims to be a full-blown Christian nationalist and wears it as a badge of pride.
People say, oh, Lance, I don't know, you sound like a Christian nationalist. Yes, I am a Christian nationalist.
I mean, that's what we're dealing with right now. That's the kind of thing that we're up against. Dude is something else.